Hear
We're live.
me? Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, 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 I've got you. And I've got to say, it's a good day when I get to wake up, talk about my favorite subject with one of my favorite people. Matt Cooke, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Kat. It's great to be back and have like-minded conversations. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to refer everybody listening back to our original podcast a year ago. It was so wildly popular. I got so much feedback about your teachings and the power of manifestation and the way that you just explain it so concisely. But your story is really on that episode, how you came into this work. So I'm going to just send everybody there to go get your whole background because today I would love to just go deeper and keep going into the layers of your work if you're down with that.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good plan for sure.
Okay.
Let's
But
do
before
it.
we do that, I do want to get caught up a little bit with you personally because since we met, since your original appearance on this show, Coruscant was pregnant. You now have little Humphrey. You're sitting in your brand new studio. By the way, your Instagram following alone has nearly doubled in the last year. I mean, talk about a guy who is walking the walk and whose dreams are coming true. I mean, tell me what
Yeah.
this last year has been like. So much change for you and so much abundance, dare I say? I mean, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So in the last 12 months, and I don't talk about my own manifestations often because I'm here to help other people, but it has been an amazing 12 months. We manifested a pregnancy straight away, manifested the most amazing natural home birth. So proud of Coruscant. To little Humphrey, our peaceful warrior, which is another story in itself, the name. Manifested our dream house here in Cornwall that we bought, which has an annex for my in-laws. So they've now retired and had a studio built in the garden. And I mean, all that's great. As social media blew up, opportunities, but the best was also manifesting my book deal with Penguin Random House. So a pretty big year, I would say. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I would say that it has to be it's almost like it's testimony, right? It's kind of it's like proof in the concept, like that you are revealing and kind of again, I know you have zero ego, but like you're showcasing the possibility for people and the opportunity to people through what has transpired in your own life. And I think that that's so beautiful. I mean, you're clearly much, much deeper into the work of manifestation now, the science of it all, the quantum mechanics, the quantum physics. And you do have, as you just mentioned, a book coming out in November. So everybody has to wait and pre order that because I know pre order sales are very, very important. But what have you learned yourself? I mean, because you're growing as well through this journey because you're constantly consuming and learning and researching. And I know that you like study this in addition to just helping people. So how have you seen your own growth through this process of your work?
Great question. And I love that we're going deep straight away. So for me, I'm always a student. You know, if you know me personally, if you speak to my wife and my in-laws, they'll always say Matt's got 2 or 3 books on at the same time. I'm reading a Kindle or I'm reading a hard, but I'm running with an audio, but I'm constantly absorbing information. And what people don't know is I first started manifestation without ever the intention to make this a business and make money. I was obsessed with it. And I just used to share the content for free out of love. So to this day, I still don't do it really for money, if I'm honest, because it's an absolute passion. Yet money is just the byproduct of the value. And as it grows, you obviously make more money, which is great. So for me, like anyone who's obsessed with anything and the sort of brain I have, I just have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So for me, and I think I mentioned this on the first episode. I think a good refresher for everyone though anyway is firstly, if people follow me, they'll know my message is wanting equals lack. And my book is actually called Beyond Wanting. And that's because we don't attract into our life what we want, because wanting means I haven't got. We attract into our life who we are being. And even the word human being is worth looking at. If you break down the word human, hue is a way to describe light, man means manifestation of light. We're all manifestations of light. And being is who we're being, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, and how we're acting. So we're all human beings. We're essentially all moving energy, all moving light in certain ways. And when you really study quantum mechanics on a deep micro level, you'll understand that what turns energy, if we can start there first, into physical reality is observation. And it's fascinating. It's called collapse of the wave function. So the simple act of observing turns this beautiful, infinite, unifying field of energy into the particle, the subatomic particle, through observation. And my real goal with this work, Catt, is waking people up to the realization that we are always collapsing the wave. We're always observing, and we're always in a state of manifestation. It's not magic. We're always manifesting. So my goal is to help people consciously manifest because
Yes.
they're already manifesting. And that's because we're always thinking thoughts, we're always feeling emotions, and those emotions are always driving behaviors. So
Mm.
most people are unconsciously collapsing the wave. And that's really interesting. So the first stage of manifestation is always observation. If observation's collapsing the wave, put aside for a moment what you want and
Yes.
understand that you should first look at who you're being. Observe yourself. Observe how you're thinking, how you're feeling. And once we do that, we can start rehearsing. We can start thinking differently. We can start visualizing the life that we seek as if it's already done.
Mm.
And that's the real key,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Okay.
Explained so well. Explained so well. Yes, that essentially at the foundation of all of this, everything is energy and our
Yeah.
thoughts create our reality. And so whether you are choosing this intentionally, your reality, you are the co-creator of your reality. Full stop.
Full stop. Exactly. And just so people understand, I absolutely do this to help people get what they want.
Yes.
But when people stop and realize how much they're saying, I want my life to change. If I just had more money, things would change. When I meet someone, I'll feel love. But that observation right there is actually saying the opposite. You're actually manifesting the opposite of what you seek. So to simplify manifestation, because I'm all about keeping it simple,
Yes.
just sit yourself down in a meditation. Doesn't even have to be a meditation. You could journal, you could practice gratitude, and just imagine what you want as if it's done. Create a story, create a mind movie, get excited by that vision and project it out every day. You're no longer wanting, right? Because if you're visualizing that thing that you seek as if it's already done, let's say it's money, let's say it's love, let's say it's, buying a house, your brain subconsciously, when you're in that meditative state, does not know the difference between whether it's a dream or whether it's real. So your brain's going to feel equal to it and your body will not know the difference. And that
I
right
think that's
there is,
so huge, Matt. I mean, sorry to cut you off, but I've heard that before. I think people hear that, and I think that's a really, I think that is, I don't know that everyone believes that, but that is proven, correct? Like your brain doesn't know the difference. Like that concept alone is interesting for people who maybe haven't kind of explored this space. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is not. I mean, that right there is such an invitation, to reprogram what's going on in between your ears, right? Like that's
well, yeah, huge. But it does at certain times of the day. That's the key. So in beta brainwaves, which is the awakened state, we're conscious and aware of the outside world. We're not really dreaming. We're focused on the material world. And our analytical mind is active. And our analytical mind is this doorway between beta and alpha. And alpha is the first level of the subconscious. So so the analytical mind can go, no, no, I'm not. We can distinguish the difference. But when you put the analytical mind to one side and you get into alpha, theta, and delta, which is the slower brainwaves, theta brainwaves, you're highly suggestible, you're hypnotic. So everyone can actually experience and has experienced what I've just said, because I'm pretty sure everyone has experienced a nightmare in their life. And if you think of a nightmare, you wake from that nightmare, it's always at night. middle of the night. So you're in theta. And for a moment, you wake, and you think that that nightmare is real, that you're being chased or you're being attacked. And you look at your body and you have proof. Your heart's racing, you're sweating. The brain and body are believing it. So that's, everyone can relate to that. Now, imagine doing that in meditation whilst rehearsing a vision for your future. You've opened the door, you're no longer in the analytical part, and now you're down here, you feel it. Your brain and body believe it's happening. So that's the observer. That is what you're observing, and that's collapsing the wave. So I would recommend everyone to go and check out session 1 with you and I, part 1, because I know I went deep in that. But to take this deeper, because I know you want to go deeper with this, everyone can relate to this. You do all the work, you know all the tools, yet sometimes you're rejected. That thing that you seek just doesn't happen. And I can relate to that. The house that we were hoping to buy, we didn't buy. I was massively rejected. Now, I'm someone now who I would say, I know all the tools. I know how this works. And for 2 years, I understood that rejection is protection and redirection. I understood that, and I'd had proof that that worked. But no one, Catt, could give me the science as to why. And I had to try and figure it out. And the only way I could describe it, and I'm sure people can relate to this, is that you do all the work and it's almost as if there is a force or an energy outside of you that ultimately like has the say. That's what it felt like. And I never spoke about it because I didn't know what it was. I was like, hang on. If that quantum field is infinite and everything we seek exists in that field, then why is it that sometimes it doesn't manifest? So I had to go and find the answer. Now, this is a long story. If you're ready for me to
I
dive
got
in.
all day. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So look, I couldn't want the answer because wanting the answer would continue leaving me in lack. I had to be open and ready for the answer to be revealed to me. And of course, you let it go. You set the intention and you let it go. And of course, out of nowhere, I discovered someone called Thomas Campbell. And I'd never heard of him before. And Thomas Campbell, he's got 3 books called My Big Theory of Everything. And I think he's in his 70s now, maybe even early 80s. And he is still to this day a physicist. But back in the 1960s, he was a very left brain, analytical quantum physicist, I think specializing in nuclear or something like that. Not spiritual at all, Catt. Until a few things happened, such as there was randomly like a transcendental meditation teacher at the lab. And it was like, learn TM and learn quicker. And he was like, well, look, I'm up for like, saving time. So he did a bit of TM, thought this is amazing, got downloads, got insights, but was still super skeptical. And then a colleague handed him a book called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. And he read it, and it was all about this guy who was having these crazy out of body experiences and going all around the planet and off planet and basically proving that his consciousness was not just tied to his body. So Thomas read it and he thought, this is a pretty cool story, but yeah, I think it might be fiction. And then a few weeks later, a colleague said, hey, you know that Robert Monroe? Well, he's actually doing a talk at his house an hour away. Do you want to go? So Tom was like, sure, why not? He's in his 20s. So he goes and he arrives at Bob's house, huge house. And he really impressed Tom because he was a sort of left brain analytical engineer. And he just shared his story. And he said, one day I just started having these out of body states, out of body experiences. And the reason I've called all of you in is because I'm looking for 2 physicists to help try and work this out and sprinkle some science to what's going on. And I'll teach you in return how I can now project my out of my body. So Tom was like, you know what? I'm down. I'm in my 20s. I can work at the lab in the day. I can go and do this. And to keep a long story as short as I can, Tom and this other guy started training with Bob and coming out of body. And they did all the cool stuff that you would do when you come out of your body and you can realize you can fly and you can go all around the world and you can go to different dimensions and you can do all of that. But Tom was really interested in understanding the origins of existence. And now I understood why the universe was leading me here, because you'll see how it leads back to rejection is protection. So Tom goes to the source of creation, and I want everyone to try and imagine just an expanse of energy. Nothing, not physical, just energy. I just imagine like a huge ocean where there's no sides, it's just infinite. And Tom explains that energy, he calls it absolute unbounded oneness. We could call it source creation, whatever we want to call it, the universe. At some point, it became dimly aware of itself. So part of it became aware that it was something, and very quickly became aware that energy, and this is the second law of thermodynamics, is always in a state of what's called entropy. So if everyone can stick with me here, and entropy means if energy is left alone, it will always become disordered, chaotic. It will always break down. It's always wanting to move. So that piece of awareness that wasn't a person, was just aware that it was something, said, in order to continue being here, to continue evolving and growing, I need to somehow lower entropy. And lowering entropy is creating order, peace, love. And the analogy I'm going to give everyone is, imagine building a sandcastle. So you build this sandcastle, and the sandcastle, once you've taken the bucket off, is in a state of low entropy. It's structured, it's ordered, you can see the castle. But if you just walk away, leave it alone, what happens? Eventually turns into sand again. High entropy. So in order to do that, it needed to split itself off. And that's where you then have, according to Tom, and this is his truth, but makes so much sense to me, the Big Bang. And that then splits itself off into planets and universes, and then eventually souls. But then for souls to really learn, they need to experience cause and effect and duality. Like, how do you even know what love is if you haven't experienced not having love? But these souls were aware of what they were, so that was hard for souls to learn. So then they created this physical reality, this existence that we're all part of, this simulation, this matrix, if you like. And then those souls would incarnate into these avatar bodies, these structures, and amnesia would kick in, and we would forget. We would forget what we are in order to learn, evolve, and lower entropy. That's the only real goal for us all, is to maintain this structure. That's why we're here. And for souls to forget, it's the best learning ground for us to lower entropy, make choices out of love, right? So I'd encourage everyone to check out Tom. No one's explaining this, by the way, in the context of manifestation, but the universe gave me that to help me with this answer. This question that I had was that, okay, bringing it back now, Catt. Why is it that if you seek to manifest, why are you rejected? And that is because my truth, that the part of you that exists outside of physical materiality, that's always with you, call it your higher self, call it your oversoul, call it your sixth sense, your intuition, can see ahead of time. So if you're seeking a particular manifestation and it can see what the road's like 12 months down, and it can see that, Matt, hey, you want this house, but what you don't know is there's problems with the neighbors, and that it needs a new roof, and that the drainage systems collapse and it's on the neighboring land. And the agent, by the way, is hiding all of that from you now, but I can see it. And that's going to create stress. It's going to create friction. So, hey, Matt, the part of you that you can't see, let me just gently reject you here. And let me redirect you. So, of course, us being here, not knowing what we are, we face this rejection and we're like, why me? I'm doing all this work. Why is my manifestation not happening? And this is dangerous, because what we are as a fragment of our soul, we have free will. We have the ability to still make choices. It's our life. It's our existence. So in the context of that house, I could have fought my way through. I could have. We've all know that gut feeling when it just doesn't feel right, or when why has anyone ever stopped to question why is that so accurate? It's yourself that can see ahead of time, that's telling you, yeah, go for it, it's going to lower entropy, or no, don't. And it's not a human being, so it can't literally talk to you. It can only communicate with you through energy. So then it gently blocks it. Now, if my ego had been strong enough, I could have forced my way through. And Catt, 12 months down the line now, that house that we wanted has got major issues with the neighbor, a collapsed septic tank, it needs a new roof. But what did the universe do? It redirected me to a better house in the same village that wasn't on the market at the time, that had an annex to my in-laws, that was 20% less in value, didn't need a new roof, didn't have issues with the neighbor. And what did it do? It lowered entropy.
Yes.
If I'd have fought my way through to the other house, I would definitely be in a high entropy state right now. There'd be a lot of stress with that house. But the problem is, if we're not aware of that and we allow our egos to get in, we might make a decision just from ego. And the real key is to just let go, surrender, and go, okay, I trust it. I don't know why it's rejected me here. I've just got to surrender and allow it to unfold. And that what's frustrating for us here is the time. Because for me, it was about 6 months. And that was hard when I was in that, wanting a house and having to wait 6 months. But in the end, like, I'd never change it. So to answer a very long question, Catt.
My gosh. I have so many questions. It's so interesting. You just said you have to be willing to let go and surrender to that. Is it possible for people, let's say, who are not practicing in this way and are not trying to get their frequency on a certain vibration and who aren't doing their meditations and all this, I imagine through their free will, they can completely disrupt all of this? I mean, I love hearing what you're saying that, wow, and that is so deep. The Thomas Campbell of it all, and going back to this beginning source where we are essentially protecting ourselves. But is ourself always able to do that for us, or are we getting in the way with our ego, like you said, like disrupting it? I mean, is that why sometimes you do end up in a super stressed out, chaotic, turbulent reality?
Yeah, to answer that in two ways. To trust the surrendering and the letting go, and to trust the redirection, is understanding that if you don't do it, you're essentially saying the universe is trying to de-evolve itself. It will never do that. It's always seeking low entropy. So if you trust it, it will always lead to something beautiful because of the nature of what it is, trying to continue evolving. Now, sometimes we'll end up in situations that maybe people are watching this now and say, well, hang on a moment, I've followed all the signs. I've even let go, and I'm in a really, I'm in a very chaotic state right now. There's a lot of high entropy, but you're in it now. What you don't know is where you'll be in a few months' time, and when you'll look back and go, that had to happen. That had to happen for me to be where I am now. So sometimes, in order to get to this state of low entropy, we sometimes have to experience high entropy. You've just got to trust it. And if you really surrender the ego, which really is just the program, it's the paradigm, it's what we think we know. I know best. And that's the work that I've really tried to focus on over the last 12 months since we've last spoken, is what does the ego even look like, and how can I surrender it even more and trust in something far greater than me?
Yes, it's so beautiful. And it's especially hard to trust, to your point, when you're in pain and when you are in suffering. But even in those moments, and you hear this all the time through philosophers and, self-help people and people who study personal development, like, therein lies the lesson. So I see that you believe that as well. Like, it's all for a reason. And even at your darkest moments, you have to accept that it's all part of this divine order.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And even give thanks, dare I say, because I know
Be-
gratitude is a huge part of your manifestation teachings and all, that's such a piece to the many practices. But even giving thanks when things are
Things are tough.
just so bad, things are tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
My sort of new analogy is, the law of rhythm is one of the laws that governs the universe. We all experience the ebb and the flow, the up and the down. And when we're in the down, when it's hard, just try and think back to any game you've ever played. A game's not fun if it's easy. It's not. Like, if you could, like a game of tennis, for example, if you're playing with someone who's you're 10 times, it's not fun. There's no game. A game is only fun when it's hard. Any game I've ever played is fun because it's hard, because I wanna win. I want, and you keep
Yes,
trying, you
yes,
keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying. So it's just a lot of this is perspective for me. So
yes.
when it's hard, it's like, how can I find the fun?
You even have referred to our life as a human being and this one journey we have in this particular body as being a game, and like taking the pressure off and like kind of reframing and looking through life through the lens of, isn't it's kind of like a simulation, it's kind of like a game, and like learn to play the game.
Learn to play the game. Yeah, absolutely. And where we are now with the latest science and breakthroughs, there's so much now that's proving that this is a simulation. But on that, it's a very real experience. Our consciousness, our five senses that plug us in, it's very, very real. And we're humans and we feel the pains. But it's science that we're only seeing a slither of reality, 0.001%. What's beyond? So much more. And I think it helped me. Obviously, if people listen to the first episode, they'll know connecting with my mum was my awakening, and having that truth and going from someone who was a skeptic to actually talking to someone on the other side, that helped me a lot with this. We're so much more, so much more.
In talking about manifestation and the things that maybe might disrupt us, or these kind of quantum lags, or things that, redirection is protection, and maybe not having per se what someone wants at this very moment. Another thing that keeps us from our, realizing or summoning in what we want can be our blocks. You talk about blocks and, what prevents people and how they kind of get in their own way from realizing what their dreams are or living their dreams. What are blocks, and how do we get rid of them? I mean, it's so funny. I said to someone the other day, a friend of mine, and she's like, I think I know what you're doing or what you're not doing. She's like, you got to work on your blocks. And I was like, what? She's like, well, you're doing all the meditation and you're doing your gratitude journal and you're lining up your life and like da, 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 da. She's like, you got some blocks. So how do we identify our blocks and work on those as it pertains to the manifestation practice?
Simple. The default mode network reveals your blocks. Your default mode network is the screensaver when you're not in focused thought or focused activity. So the default mode network is what you're aware of when you're in idle mode. So when you're walking, when you're showering, when you're cooking, when you're not doing anything that requires too much focus. Imagine walking away from your computer. When it's not being used, the screensaver comes on. And we're all aware of the voice in our head that tells us that we're not good enough, that life's hard and money's hard to come by and I won't be successful. That is your default mode network. And that is essentially well trodden pathways in your brain. And the brain is always looking to conserve energy. So it will always naturally go down these well trodden paths. And then those paths will reveal thoughts such as, I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I'll never have a child, all those thoughts. So, how do you do it? Well, here's my analogy. Neuroscience is proving that at any age we can rewire the brain. So, my analogy is, imagine a forest. Imagine going into a forest. And in that forest, there are different pathways, well trodden pathways, trails, if you like. And people walk down them, run down them, cycle down them, walk their dogs down them. They all go different places. But if anyone's been in a forest and you've been on one of those pathways, you know at any time you can decide to deviate from the path. If you do, though, it's going to be difficult because there's branches that snag you in the face, and there's trees and stinging nettles and thorns. You've got free will, right? No one's saying you have to stick to the path. You can. So let's imagine, Kat, that you decide to go, I'm creating my own path here, and you deviate. You go down it. It's hard. Every part of you is like, what am I doing? I should turn back. I should turn back. But you persist. You keep on going. Then here comes me, 20 minutes behind. And I'm like, is that a new path? Yeah, I think it is. Someone's been down there. I'm going to go down there. So I go down there. And then my wife is 20 minutes behind me, and she gets there and she's like, that's definitely a path. And she goes down there. And now eventually all the traffic is like, hey, this pathway is quicker. I'm going to go down this. So what happens is the old path doesn't disappear. It just grows over, and the new path becomes the predominant path. So imagine that in the brain. You have a pathway that says, I'll never be successful. I'll never make money. People like me don't make money. But then you start saying, money flows to me effortlessly. I'm open now to receiving abundant opportunities. Every day, in every way, money and abundant opportunities flow my way. And you rehearse in meditation what it's like to be abundant. It's not easy though, Catt. Every part of you will want to pull you back to, no, you're not. I'm not worthy of abundance. I'm not. And that's because the brain's desperately trying to save energy. But you keep going, and eventually something amazing happens. That in your brain, this new pathway becomes the new route. And now, because the brain wants to save energy, you automatically go down to I'm abundant, but it takes time. 66 days on average.
And doing it consistently. I mean, because here's
Every
the
day.
other thing, and admittedly, I mean, and I'm even somebody who loves this work and enjoyed your course. And I think we go through waves of seasons in our lives. And I'm even guilty of somebody who's like, I do it one day, then 3 days later, then I'm back to my journal, then I'm back to my meditating. And so are we delaying what it is we want if we are not being consistent and doing this mental rehearsal every day and writing these affirmations every day and feeling these feelings in our body every day? Are we just delaying what it is we want when we do have an opportunity to wake up and live this way
You're not just
consistently
delaying
with
it though, Catt.
discipline? Yeah. Yeah.
You're not just delaying it, because the reminder for everyone is, if you don't do it, you're doing it anyway. If you don't do your journaling, you're doing it anyway, the opposite way. So you're just, yeah. So for me, if you was to speak to anyone that knows me, you'll never break Matt's consistency. Never.
Why do I believe that? I know. I
I
know.
haven't skipped a day meditating, journaling, gratitude in over 3 years. And I'm talking Christmas Day, the day my son was born. Like, why would I not? Why would I not clean my teeth? Would I not shower on those days?
I know. I know.
You
I
know?
mean, is that self-sabotage? I mean, is that a reflection of how we feel about ourselves? Is that me, like, again, just putting the mirror on myself? Is that me, in some subconscious way thinking that maybe I'm not deserving of this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so crazy that logically, and I can sit here and say that and verbalize that this is what I want and I know what to do. And then if you're not doing it anyway, like, what does that say?
Well, it just says you're programmed the opposite way to me. It just says that
That
at the moment you have,
the other programming has such a hold on me still.
yeah, it's saying, hang on, no, I don't need to journal every day.
Yeah.
The reason people like my wife and my mother-in-law, they do it every day, is because I've just told them. I was like, you do this, set the goal of like every day for at least 90, ideally 120. And I promise you'll get there and you'll never stop. And my mother-in-law now, who's 60 next year, she struggled financially most of her life. And she now has money coming from all angles. And she comes to me, she says, Matt, you'll never guess what. And she just goes, money's a flow of energy. It flows to me and through me. And my only job is not to block the flow. And I told her that affirmation 2 years ago. And, and she swears by it. She's like, Matt, why would I stop? Why would I stop? But she can't stop, right? Because it's now a program.
Yes.
So for me, it's consistency, but it's more than that, Catt, if I can.
Yes.
I'm also studying quantum computers at the moment, and that's because they tie in with manifestation. Can I explain?
Please. Yes. Quantum computers. I didn't know there was such a thing, but okay.
And they're amazing. Let me give everyone the insight first. So they've been a thing for a while, but in December, Google announced their Willow quantum computer chip. And the chief technology officer of Google said that Willow has just performed a calculation in, I think, under 5 minutes, or it could have been 15, that would have taken their most advanced supercomputer 10 quadrillion years, which is an unfathomable amount of time, older than the universe, to work out. And Willow has basically proven the many worlds interpretation that was first talked about in the 70s, which basically says that there's an infinite amount of parallel versions of Earth. And Willow basically got the answer from an Earth that already had it. So what does that mean, Kat? How does that even tie into manifestation and why am I studying it? Well, imagine being at the entrance of a maze and your goal is to get to the middle. To get to the middle, you're going to go down lots of different paths to try and get your way there. And a lot of those paths will be dead ends deliberately. It's part of the game of the maze. And eventually you'll figure your way to the middle. So that's a lot of trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. Now, Google's supercomputer does the same thing. It stands at the entrance of a maze, but very, very quickly, Cat can go down all those paths and get to the middle straight away. Well, not straight away, but sometime. Willow, their quantum computer chip, stands at the entrance of the maze. Imagine there was a button to say go. As soon as it says go, it's there. Instantly. Instantaneously, no time. There. So the question is how? And that's because Willow exists in what's called superposition, meaning that it's everywhere at once, meaning that it goes down all the paths at once. So it's dipping in and out of the quantum field. And in the quantum field, you go from particle to wave, and that wave exists in what's called superposition. So the energy is everywhere at once. So it can get to the middle instantaneously at once. So in the context of trying to use quantum computers to getting answers to things, it's going into what's called superposition and finding the answer almost instantaneously because it exists in the expanse of the field. Whereas their supercomputer doesn't do that, Kat. It doesn't exist in the field. It exists in our world, physical matter reality. It has to work stuff out. I've got to go down this way. I've got to try this. I failed at that. I've got to come back. I've got to do this. So this is truly groundbreaking. So then the question is, well, how are these quantum chips kept? And they're kept in the coldest temperatures on Earth, ice cold temperatures, because what they're trying to do is make sure they can see the results. Because if there is any heat, any noise, any friction, the result becomes very chaotic very quickly, almost erodes this decoherence. So in an ice cold temperature, they can reduce all friction, all noise, all temperature, and they're still working on it, but it's very, very fragile. Now let's look at the context of us manifesting. Let's imagine our brains are quantum chips, which I think they are. Well, most people, without realizing, create a lot of friction in their life. They might do the work, the meditation, they might feel it, they might do their gratitude, but then there's their atmosphere's noisy and there's a lot of negative thoughts, and they do one day but then skip a week, and there's a lot of friction. So what I try and do, and I was doing it anyway really before I even sort of started putting two and two together, the real key is to try and create a frictionless environment.
Whoa. Boy, does that land. Okay, keep going. Keep preaching. Let's go. Give it to me. How do we do? I mean, because that is absolutely huge. And it's huge for the every person and everyday life, living a real life, the people we're in and I know what you're going to say, but I'm thinking of the people who have 3 jobs and have 4 kids and whose mom has Alzheimer's, or who someone's dying of cancer, or then there's a custody battle. I mean, there's a million things that could be happening in one's life. And that friction is even, and you tell me, but it feels out of one's control, right? Like I can control what I can control, but how do I control all of these things around me and create the atmosphere that you're talking about? That the quantum computer chip is in the cold, isolated somewhere on some other timeline. But for the human being listening, going, well, what do I do? Put bubble wrap around me and walk through life? How do we apply that?
Absolutely. I think in an ideal world, we'd all create this sacred temple in the garden where it's all perfect and we have sound bowls and crystals and no, it's not real. It's in the context of what you said, it's the perfect follow-up question. It's letting go. It's trusting whatever you're going through I don't know why I'm going through this. I don't know why I'm being tested, but I trust it. And by letting go, think of letting go. I'm just going to give this my attention and be present to it. but I can just trust it. It's all about perspective, in my opinion. And I think the book that encapsulates this is The Surrender Experiment. And it is one of my favorite books, but it was also a paradox because for anyone who hasn't read it, I won't ruin the story, but you're talking about a real story of a man who goes from being a hippie in the woods to building a $1 billion company in America through letting go, through surrender. Now, what did he surrender to? He surrendered the voice in his head telling him what to do, and he allowed the unfolding of life to call the shots. So the universe to call the shots. So someone would want to meditate with him. A stranger, his ego would say, "No, I don't know who you are." But he would see it as a sign and it would allow the person to sit with him. And that person would then become his wife, for example. So Michael, and I was like, well, how he's manifested this whole life without manifesting, right? So we're all here like trying to be clear, and he just allowed it. But Michael went through some real difficulty. He was sued by the American government, and it crippled him, and it took years of his life and cost a lot of money. But if you read the book, you'll see how Michael, even in the height of challenge, surrendered to it, enjoyed it almost, was grateful for his lawyers and was grateful in the moment. And ultimately, where he is now, being one of the biggest spiritual teachers on the planet, best-selling author, without that story, he wouldn't have lowered his own entropy without the challenge, the adversity. So when I talk about a frictionless environment, it's not possible in the sense of being a quantum chip and being in an ice cold temperature. But it is possible to at least say, do you know what? Look, what I'm facing, it exists right now. I can't change that at the moment. But there's two ways to look at it, though. Always. Because duality is another law of the universe, right? Water, hot or cold, it's the same thing of a different degree. So, whatever you're facing right now, are you just facing it from one angle? Could you face it from the other? Because we're humans and we all experience that. And I think when you realize you have that gift, that creates less friction.
So good. That's so good. I love that. I love that so much. That is beautiful. As it pertains to manifesting, and you and I had discussed this a little bit because I had a personal experience that just kind of totally wowed me. And we didn't discuss this on our first podcast, but our ability to potentially manifest for others and what that looks like. Is that prayer? Is it manifestation? We're sending energy. And I'll just tell everybody the story. I mean, my son was going through a hard time, and he was having some struggles, and he was feeling pretty low, and he was feeling somewhat just paralyzed about his future and things like this. And as any mother feels, that was just really starting to weigh on me. And I just always, of course, hold him in regard, but I really intentionally started meditating on him. And by the way, it wasn't like 10 hours a day for 5 days in a row, but it was just very, very pure and coming from probably a high emotional state, because I obviously love him dearly and want what's best for him. And so I did all the things that you teach, which was, I just imagined him just happy. I imagine this light around him. I imagine him feeling confident. I imagine him working in like
Mm.
coming alive through his work. I imagine him just remembering who he was and all his gifts and all his abilities and all these things. And it literally made me happy to even just feel this for him. And I did that, a couple days. And it wasn't even 3 days later when I started getting these texts from him. This opportunity just presented itself. And then not even that. And I haven't even shared this with you, and I don't want to tell all of his business, but he got in a car and literally drove himself 3 hours to a convention that is his life's passion and hobby and kind of obsession. And out of that, just him taking some inspired action, getting in the car, driving, being pulled to this location 3 hours from where he was. Fast forward to he met a childhood hero. He went up and introduced himself. He told him what he did for a living. And as we speak today, a month later, he has been employed by this person and is
Wow.
entering his dream job. I mean, Like, it's like almost unbelievable. Like, everyone in our family, everyone's like, you couldn't have even designed this better. Like, every part of this opportunity is so well suited for his skills, his heart, his brain, like all this. So I was just, and I
Amazing.
had reached out to you in the middle of that because I was like, hold on a minute. He's getting some bites. He's getting some opportunity. Can we manifest for other people? Because I'm not saying that I caused that, but I am saying that there may have been a little bit of energy that served him. I don't know. So I know that people listening have loved ones that they care deeply for and might want to apply this practice to those in their lives. So can you touch on that a little
Yeah.
bit?
Great. Congratulations to your son. That's amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
The simple answer is yes, of course. You collective observation for one is big, is really big. So when you amplify intention, of course the signal's louder. So yes, you can send a signal to your son, you can put it out there. But I think you have to look at what other people are doing in the world. So for example, transcendental meditation. It's a big passion of mine, but they have science to prove that when people come together with collective intent, regions, countries, their crime rates lower. Firstly, you look at Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has 1,000, 2,000 people in an event, and he gets people to go outside and meditate and open their hearts and come back in and project love to people who are looking to heal from terminal cancer. And these people, in one meditation, their tumors are disappearing. How is that? The simple answer is yes. The other side is also recognizing that, of course, everyone has free will. So you could, in sense, be manifesting for someone else, but that other person equally can decide whether they want to think the opposite way. So if you've got two people, maybe two parents, then you're going to amplify more power. So it's all intention and emotion. They're the two secrets when it comes to this work. Study the Heart Math Institute. Absolutely, more people should be doing it. And I think anyone watching this who has children, or actually if a couple are looking to manifest together, true story, Corazon and I, my wife, we manifest a lot together. Of course, we each have our own individual manifestations too. When some of those manifestations come to fruition, like Corazon's has more recently, she'll say, "Hey Matt, do you need any power over your way towards some things that you're working on?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on this one at the moment." She's like, "Great. How do you want me to structure it? How should we look at it? How should we work it?" And it manifests quicker because she's just putting more energy into it as well. So
Whoa.
yeah,
I mean, energy being at the heart of all of this, energy. And we could just define that one more time for people, because I love when you just talk about, what energy is. I mean, at the end of the day, where our thoughts go, the energy flows, and our energy is creating our reality. And you also talked, I think we should just touch on one more time, because there's this idea of that's so important in manifestation, is that you're not manifesting who you want to be. You're manifest based on who you are being in this moment. And that
yes,
that can be hard for people to wrap their heads around, like, well, how am I supposed to, walk through my day and as a wealthier person, or as a uber successful person, or as all of these things, if I am not that in this moment?
yeah. I think firstly, to answer that question, the science aspect of my brain firstly knows that it exists. Everything that I seek exists. Whether it's right for me or not, my higher self will tell me and will lead me somewhere better. I've spoken about that. But where I very quickly understood the manifestation process was that if I feel that what I'm seeking is too far out from my existing reality, we'll dislocate it. What do I mean? If I don't truly believe, if I don't truly feel aligned, it will actually do more harm than good, because I'll be more likely to doubt it. And the Monroe Institute, everyone should go and check out the gateway process and scroll all the way down to a section called patterning. And it states there, this is a CIA document from the 1980s. Patterning essentially is manifestation, but it says if it's too far out from your existing reality, you will dislocate it with consequence. And I knew that before I found that document. So what I do, and what I'd recommend everyone does, is understand that there's too many people preaching online. You've got to dream big, right? And
Yes.
Yeah, dream big. Please
Yes.
do. And do you know what? If you're one of those individual that absolutely believes it, go for it. But the problem, in my opinion, with dreaming too big is it's too far out. And therefore, there is a weak alignment to the energy. And this is a game of resonance, right? So if it's too far out from where we are, it's very hard to stay aligned. So then hang on. Why can't I reverse engineer down that manifestation into sequential steps that feel naturally closer? Because if something feels closer, I'm going to believe it more. But I'm still going to leave the actual unfolding in the manifestation to the intelligence. So I do this. I think no further out than 12 months. Even though I have dreams, right, of where I want to go, no further out than 12 months. And that becomes my overarching vision that I'm working on. But every day, what my routine looks like is I'll give that thought in meditation, but then my other tools that I'm working on, such as my journaling, such as my gratitude, such as my affirmations, are tailored more around the sequential rungs on that ladder. The smaller manifestations are going to get me there because I'm then closing the gap between the bigger goal and where I am. And if someone doesn't believe it, then say to yourself, what's the next sequential step? What is it? Think about where you are right now and think to yourself, sequentially, how would that manifest? Because look, we're not with a genie who's got a magic bottle and all of a sudden your dream house is just going to pop out. No, like we live in a rule set that has to render itself. And what that means is things happen in an order. So not enough people are thinking about that potential order. And what I would say is just work out what that step is, work it out. Think about what could that look like and then manifest that by saying, for example, I'm so happy and grateful now that, my in the context of your son, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful now that my son has found a life-changing opportunity because, and then explain why you're grateful for that and then thank it 3 times. And that's what I do. I really use my gratitude to be thankful for the next sequential steps ahead of the event.
So good. So good. Back to the gateway process and these CIA papers. And yes, you were the one who kind of told me about that initially. And I think, didn't you insert that somewhere in your Evolve course online if people
Yeah,
go and
for my
still take
bonus
that? Yeah.
module.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, bonus module. It's interesting because I was going to ask you earlier about AI and artificial intelligence and if you're using that at all within your work. But and then you talked a little bit about the quantum computer and what you're learning about that. But then I go back and I think about the government. I'm thinking like what maybe they know about consciousness and energy fields and all that's happening that maybe they're not even sharing with us. I mean, there must just be so much behind the veil that's going on that maybe we aren't privy to. Do you know about that? Do you look into that? Are you fascinated by what the quote unquote powers that be that kind of govern us all, what they are tapping into about consciousness? Just because I do feel like, to your point earlier, you look online and everybody's saying things like manifest your biggest life, and there it does seem to be a lot of energy going to people today, specifically in 2025, kind of waking up a little bit or being intrigued by these teachings or leaning more into them. So I guess it's like the Wizard of Oz or something. Do you believe like that the government is dialed into all this and isn't telling us more of what they know and still investigating all of this? Sorry, I'm kind
Mm.
of word salading all over the place, but do you know what I mean?
100%. 100%. Collapse of the wave function, quantum mechanics, is nearly 100 years old. You know, for a start, then that's the science. Absolutely. I mean, if I said to you, Kat, is the news mainly negative or positive? What would you say? Negative, right?
Negative. I
Negative.
can't even
So
turn it
if
on anymore.
if everyone's always in a state of manifestation, do you think the news subconsciously makes people think negatively and feel equal to that?
Yes.
So then what's that doing to the collective observation? Keeping them trapped.
Yeah.
Keeping them trapped in lives that don't
Yeah.
serve them.
Serve them.
Do you think the hierarchy would want everyone to thrive and be independent and not focus on the system? They know exactly what they're doing. I would call it black magic. Absolutely, 100%. Now, to answer your question, to me, it's inevitable. Absolutely. And it's so obvious to me, but I don't go down those rabbit holes. Why? because going down the rabbit holes does exactly what they want you to feel. It makes you feel equal to the proof. It makes you feel those lower vibrations: anger, fear, frustration, grief. So I just refuse to not accept it. And not accept it, but I just refuse to not go down there. Because if we go back to the many worlds interpretation, it's my observation of reality that's going to collapse. So if I constantly think about how corrupt the government is and the hierarchy and black magic and all of this, I'm just going to see more proof of it. You know, it's funny. People say to me, how many times do you hear people say, the internet's listening to me? You know,
All
right?
the time. Yes. Yeah.
I don't think it is. I have a theory that that that
Okay.
that people say, "Oh my god, the internet." Like I was thinking about this.
I just got served something. Yes. Like the
I was
second I
thinking
talk
about
about it, then I'm
this,
served.
and then I'm seeing
Yes.
it on
Yes.
Instagram. Like, how is that? Like, how? Like, I saw something completely offline. I was thinking about this, and it's everywhere now on Instagram. How? The internet's that my phone's listening to me. No, no. You're collapsing the wave. You're collapsing the wave, and you're collapsing it onto Instagram. That's what's happening. So, like, if people start focusing on something in their life, they're observing it and then they're collapsing it and it's appearing on Instagram, you know?
That is really powerful because I don't think, yeah, I never thought about it like that, but that completely supports. Is that the observer effect? Is that exactly what
Observe
that
it.
is?
Like,
Yeah.
you have to think about this for a moment. And I'm talking the sort of, obviously, if you go and type online, right, and you don't clear your cache information in your history and you start tapping online, of course, like I did digital marketing for 4 years. I know how to, you know, do indirect marketing. Yes, you can easily do that. But I'm talking about if you're having conversations offline about something completely random, like for example, a silver cross buggy that I'm looking at in the corner of my office right now, right? That I would never normally search online before we were having Humphrey. And I'm just talking about it. And why am I now seeing videos, not even ads, like videos about silver cross prams, for example? I haven't typed online, I haven't searched online. Why is that, you know? And that's just one example. It's observation.
It is really deep. I want people to start to, because it just goes back to the power and the control that we have in our brains, that instead of visualizing a pram, it could be, it's just our greatest desires, what we want. Again, just the control we have over our thoughts and what then we can do.
Yeah, the
Oh,
reticular activating system, cat in the
right.
brain,
Mm-hmm.
is the gatekeeper, and it's responsible for billions of incoming sensory data points every day, photons, if you like, of light, and it will only allow in what it knows can come in. And what you give attention to is what you prime the RAS to pay attention to. So if you start looking at a new car and you give it more attention than you normally would, why is it when you drive around, all you see is the car? The car's always been there. It's just because you've primed your RAS. So when you prime your RAS to your goals, to your vision board, to your manifestation, it allows it in. Where does it go? It goes into the subconscious. The subconscious isn't chaotic. It's a slower brainwave. It's an easier, smoother communication to the field. So it's all about where you place your attention and how often you place that attention.
Yes. Just lastly, I wanted to ask you about sound frequencies, brain waves, this building the curiosity about hertz-based energy healing. I have something on my phone, I think it's called brain something or the other, but it plays different hertz combinations, some that might help you focus, some that might help you sleep, some that might help you relax, some that might give you energy. Do you believe in this? Do you practice with this at all? Do you find it to be meaningful? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do actually. And that's because if you study the emotional vibrational chart, you'll see that emotions carry different frequencies. Like love is 528. So there's a company called the Love Tuner, and if you blow into what's like a little whistle, you're blowing love. Like you're literally creating that vibration. Everything is sound. Everything is vibration, right? So Very good. If you're manifesting love, play that frequency. Surround yourself in the frequency of love, because you attract into your life what you are. So if you're seeking love, you have to be love, right? Otherwise, you're actually manifesting the opposite of love. So that's like in the context of those higher vibrational hertz frequency sounds. But for people that struggle to visualize, to meditate, you should really check out theta hertz frequencies. So, for example, they're called binaural beats. So, 4 hertz theta binaural beats. And what it does is really interesting. You'll be listening to, let's say, 100 hertz in your left ear and 104 hertz in your right ear. So there's 4 hertz like that's uneven here, and the brain's always looking to balance itself. So what it does is it entrains the brain to 4 hertz to balance the difference on each side. So you've now got 100 coming in and out. So what the brain does is it actually entrains itself to 4 hertz, and 4 hertz is the equivalent of theta, which is deep meditation, highly suggestible. So just by listening to binaural beats, you don't even need to do anything. Your brain will naturally slow down to theta. And then when you're in theta, you've turned down the volume of your doubts and your analytical mind, and it's easier to then visualize your future.
Of course you know about that too.
No,
You are
no,
just like a
sorry.
walking encyclopedia. I mean, my gosh, you literally are like a walking, I mean, you're like ChatGPT for manifestation.
Or as my
You
wife
know
says
so
to me,
much.
she jokes when we're out with friends, and she's like, people are like, oh, she says, the problem with Matt is he becomes an expert in everything he does. So like she'll say, like, Matt's so embarrassing because when we're on Zoom with our accountant, he's always correcting the accountant. Or like he'll become like an expert in coffee and like grinding the beans and the carbon dioxide and the crema. Yeah, I know. It's just my brain. I just become like a nerd in everything I do.
Do you have a photographic memory? I mean, the way you like retain this, I mean, because you've literally explained like the observer effect to me 1,000 times, and I still have to go back and like really focus on it to understand it. Like, I really struggled in chemistry in high school and these things. Like, my brain just does it. I have to really work at that. But like, you just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I never used to. If school, I really struggled. I was the youngest in my year, and I used to really, really struggle. I don't think friends would recognize me, actually, friends from school that I'm not friends with now. But something shifted. I
Really?
genuinely believe I shifted somewhere, and I do have this unbelievable ability to retain information now. Like unbelievable. Like I could almost read, like as I'm talking about Thomas Campbell, I can actually see the words in the book as I'm like to remind myself of where you know, it's yeah, like crazy words that just I can just remember. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it.
Do you think that has something to do with just how incredibly aligned you are and how you're living now? Like,
I
almost your
think,
superpowers have been revealed to you because you're on the path that you were intended to be on.
yeah, I think so for sure. I think when you're in alignment with soul, you retain. But I think I would say just on this for here's something really interesting. This is something else I know that if you want to retain more information, just on this thread, your hippocampus in your brain is like a little memory stick. And its goal every day is to collect the data of the day, and it stores it in this like memory stick in your brain. And then when you sleep, it sort of filters that information into the limbic system in your brain, like the deeper parts of your brain. And the idea is you wake up in the morning and your memory stick is cleared, and then you can remember or you can collect more data. Now, if you don't get enough sleep, and Matthew Walker said it is around about the 7 to 8 hours to empty the memory stick, you are then able to collect data and store it, collect data and store it, collect data and store it. Now, if you don't have enough sleep, you start every day with, let's say, 25% of data still in the memory stick from the day before. So then let's say you read books that day, or Kat, you listen to me about the observer effect, but your memory stick's full. So no data now is able to actually be stored. So sleep, in my opinion, and I've been challenged, obviously, having a child over the last 6 months. But sleep, I think, is the foundation, not just for manifestation, not just for health, but for everything. And I would encourage everyone to read that book, because that, for me, Kat, to answer your question, was what changed. I used to be someone who stayed up really, really late, sort of 1, 2 in the morning. And now I'm quite good, rigid with like, good 8, 9 hours sleep. And I feel like everything I learn in the day, I can remember. So there's another little
Okay,
fact
I'm
for you.
inspired. I am very, very inspired. And I'll just end with asking you, because your morning ritual has always been very important to you, and it's not a 20-minute thing. Like in the past, you had a pretty set schedule with your meditation and your journaling and getting centered and whatnot. Has that changed since having Humphrey, and are you still able to get the same amount of time and quality nourishment to set the tone for your day? Or now that you're a new dad, have you had
No.
to pivot a
Yeah.
little and do it differently?
Yeah, 100%. Authentically, yeah. My routine a couple of years ago would have been an hour's meditation, followed by probably half an hour journaling with an espresso, then reading, and it could last a couple of hours. But now it's a shift. It's this morning, for example, Coruscant. We both woke about 5:30, and Coruscant said, "I'll go first, do my journaling, my meditation." Humphrey woke then at 6, so I was feeding him whilst Coruscant was doing. So it's anywhere from half an hour to an hour, and that tends to be sort of like 20 minutes to half an hour meditation. I've just got through this work. I've got better at getting there quicker, so I don't need an hour. Is what I would say.
Yes. Yes.
If you
Yes.
struggle with meditation, you should do longer. That's the real thing if you can. And the journaling and my practice can be anywhere from around half an hour. But yes, for sure. It's never slipped, neither for Coruscant. There's not a day we've missed since having Humphrey, but we work together, and we used to do it in bed together, sitting upright. If anyone reads my book, you'll see that I say, we journal, I can feel the energy. Now, no. Now I actually come out to my office in the garden, I bring an espresso with me, and Coruscant's upstairs. So it's changed. It's changed, and that's nice. So
Well, where I'm sitting, your life looks beautiful, and I'm so happy you're so deserving of all of the growth and success you've had, and I can't wait for Beyond Wanting, your book. That's the title,
yes,
right? Beyond
it is
Wanting.
beyond wanting. Yes.
And I can only imagine that from this new studio, you are cooking up all kinds of new content for all of your followers who we get to continue to engage and digest all of your videos. I love that Coruscant now has her own Instagram, so we can follow you guys, both of you, independently now as well. Just thank you for continuing to put out so much goodness in the world. I hope people continue to find your teachings because they are powerful.
Thank you so much, Kat. It's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to just share what I know. So thank you. It's been great.
Thank you.
And I just want to finish by saying to anyone listening, just remember that you're here to remember that you are already a creator, and that the key to unlock the door that reveals your best life is already within. You have that power. It already exists. Just go and create it.
Trust me.
We'll finish there. Exactly, exactly, exactly. Thank you, Kat. You are right. You're right. I was leaving it to you. Yeah. Trust me. You have to edit it there
Trust
at the
me.
end. Trust me. Yeah.